Welcome to the Campus Ministry Today podcast. I'm Paul Wooster with my co-host Steve Shadrack. We love bringing these episodes to you because y'all are our heroes, those that are working on the front lines of the college campus every day, day in, day out, waking up at 2 a.m. because you got a text from a student. Man, y'all are our heroes. And so one of the opportunities that we wanted to throw out at you is the EDM 23 conference for collegiate ministry staff across the country. It's May 8th through the 11th, 2023 in Fort Worth, Texas. And we're going to bring the best of practitioners to equip you in evangelism, disciple making, and mission mobilization. We already have 600 leaders signed up, and we're praying for at least 1,000. We actually have room for more than that. So bring your whole team for staff development and encouragement. And you can check all that info out and register at campusministry.org. And one of our kickoff speakers is actually our podcast guest today. So we're thrilled to have him. Shad, can you introduce us to him?
I would love to, brother. I have known our guest, Derek Moore, ever since he was a college student at Troy State University, and we were privileged to have him come live with us. And our family literally fell in love with him. And he immediately started reaching out to the athletes at our local college. And really, Paul, I've never met anyone more filled with the joy of the Lord, the simplicity of life, and such a winsome witness of the gospel. He played college football in Georgia and Oklahoma. We'll touch on that a little bit. He played professional football for several NFL teams before going on staff with Campus Outreach and later with FCA, ministering to college athletes in Atlanta and now the University of South Carolina. He's authored several great books. He speaks all over the country. He's married to an amazing, beautiful Stephanie, has 3 incredible children. I could go on, couldn't I, Derek, about your life? We need to make a movie out of your life, bro, is what we need to do. About
be a tearjerker for sure.
You really would, my lifelong friend, but I'll stop there. So, Derek, we want to welcome you, brother, to the CMT podcast. We're honored to have you. But tell our audience, we have a mainly collegiate ministry staff audience that are watching and listening. But tell them a little bit about how you came to Christ and how you developed such a love for the Lord and for people. How did that happen, brother?
Well, first of all, it's a real honor and pleasure to be on board on this podcast. And again, Steve, you do such a great job of building me up that I don't know where to go from here. So, but I tell you, you're very gracious, and certainly our track record is quite extensive and extremely impactful when it comes to my very personal life. I think we'll get to more of that as we go. But certainly, my pilgrimage in my faith, and certainly reared in a single parent home with a mother that certainly had a passion for God, a passion for Christ. And so any foundation that I can speak of starts there. We didn't have a whole lot. We were a very poor family. My mother worked 2 jobs. It was a single parent home experience. And certainly, but the values that she taught and believed so greatly in, irregardless of our social economic conditions and circumstances, she built her life around a God whom she could not physically see.
Wow.
But believed was there. And so as a result of that, it championed my passion for Christ and for my faith. But I will say that I did not think I had an authentic relationship with Jesus in that experience. And it didn't happen until I actually finished my senior year of high school and went on to attempt to walk on at Georgia Southern University. I did not make it there, but I was given an old dorm room, Steve. It reminds me of kind of going to your place. These people keep seeing this poor, broken down, just depraved individual. And as a result of it, offered me an old bedroom there on the dorm. And I was grappling with my life. Where am I? What am I doing? Who am I? What am I? And tears running down my face in the dark of night in a dorm room with not a bedspread on a cart. I bawled out and cried out to Jesus.
Wow.
Save me, not even having the capacity to really know biblically what that meant, but I needed him because I didn't see where life was going for me and I didn't have any hope. And in an instant moment, I could feel the presence of God come into that dorm room and comfort me. I get emotional talking about it, but comfort me, gave me no instructions on where I'm going to ultimately go and all the people I'm going to meet, but in a simple act of faith. A simple act of just saying yes to this plan and vision that you have for salvation. Save me today, oh God. He saved me to the uttermost. And as a result of it, my life has been the evidence and the proof of it in the places that I've been. But more than that, he is the proof. So in a small dorm room there at Georgia Southern, I didn't play one down there, but he sent me there to find him. And as a result, here is where we are.
Wow. Brother, I truly want to talk to you about making a movie out of your life story. It is really amazing. We're going to talk more about it, Paul, but we have such incredibly fond memories of Derek living with us. I remember the day he moved in, but and I'm going to share some memories, Derek, in a few moments, but what's a memory or two that you have of living with the Shadrach family? It was really 30 years ago that you lived with us, but what was a memory or two that you have for my crew that you moved in with us during that time?
You know, you cramped me here, Steve, by putting me in a box to tell you just a memory or two. I mean, there are so many. There are so many. I'll just give you two, and I would say they happened on the day that I arrived. I rode an old Greyhound bus all across the country to get to Conway, Arkansas. And previously having met Steve and Carol at a conference, if I'm not mistaken, Tennessee. And Steve was speaking at one of his breakout seminars, and I attended it and was so moved and impressed with his command of the room, his message, his teaching, his love and his compassion, and all of the things that just are very attractive to me. And I came up and introduced myself to him and never thought again I'd ever see him again. I went on back to school, and I'm telling you, my situations changed, and Steve and I connected again in an effort for me to go to college and finish out my senior year, and offered me an opportunity to come to Conway to live with he and his family. I rode the bus all the way to Conway, got off the bus. I had an old rundown little suitcase. It was just,
I remember it.
Just an old beat up suitcase. I might have had 5 or 6 pieces of clothing, Steve, to my life. Mm-hmm. And you and Carol met me over that bus. Mm.
We met you at midnight at the bus station, brother. in North Little Rock, it was a $92 wired you $92 to get that bus fare. Yeah. I said, and we were fired up to have you live with us. It was one of the greatest memories of our life, Derek.
Well, it certainly was just one of the greatest moments, and I won't ever forget there were so many. I got to your home, and the children, they were little kids at the time. Marietta and the boys, and they would not. I was in my room, and I remember them coming and I had the door sort of closed, but halfway cracked, and they came in peeking through the door, see me, and I'm just kind of, okay, how do I do this? And they were just joyed over, and it just said so much about the family, Steve, that you were raising, that they just welcomed me with incredible affection. And I've raised my own family with that pictorial, the way I watch you sit at a dining room table and have a dinner with your family and your wife and your children. You would pray. I never got a lot of those images growing up. My mom certainly provided, but then to see a man and a husband and a wife sit at a table and their children, and the way you champion that home was certainly something I've taken with me.
Appreciate that.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
It's so encouraging. And I love that picture of intentionality of Shad he saw potential in you, and he saw that. And that's always, Steve's always looking for those leaders, and that's a great leadership principle, is like almost like a college football recruiter. Steve saw something in you that he wanted to recruit and train and build out, and you've been a faithful steward of that. So you've also played some college football, and so our listeners might be curious about what teams and collegiate and professional teams did you play for over the years?
Yeah, my football exploits, I guess, were very unique. Of course, I was there in Conway, and then was attempting to go to UCA. I think at UCA, yeah. And things didn't quite work out to do that. And I went to Northeastern, and Steve was so gracious and, to drive me to Tahlequah, Oklahoma, where and Steve knows all of those fun memories. But it was another real standard, a marker in my life that was so powerful. An event that it was the opportunity. I saw so many fathers and dads take their children places, and I didn't have that. And I was 20 years old, so 20 and a half, almost 21. And Steve drove me to Northeastern, and it was the greatest experience of my life that, I said, God, you didn't forget me. And I got to live that out, and drove me to Northeastern, where I went on to play one season, a glorious season, that things worked out well for me, and succeeded in becoming an All-American at Northeastern State University, Oklahoma, in Tahlequah. Was drafted in the NFL by the Atlanta Falcons, and played with the Lions and the Carolina Panthers, and played 6 years. And I was so fortunate to have that opportunity, but certainly used that platform to further create a witnessing opportunity for Christ. And certainly that was quite a powerful moment for me as well.
Great. Yeah. Could you share some stories of how God used you in those different situations as a witness there, and kind of maybe a few of the results you saw there?
Yeah. I remember being in the Falcon organization, and as a young rookie who, was trying to make the team. I wasn't a high draft pick, but I was a young rookie. So I had no real, respect from anybody. And being a middle of the road draft pick, you just had to earn your way. But one of the things I did, the values and things I learned in Steve's home, was I love ministry, and I always felt I had a calling to speak and preach and teach and all of those things. And so I did the most courageous thing. I'm out there trying to make the team and compete, and I had these guys who were big and strong, and I started a little Bible study. And every day the guys would walk by the room, I'd leave the door open, hoping I'll get a member or two come in, So I started this Bible study, and we would meet, weekly. But I think the greatest impact was not what I taught, but what was caught.
Yeah. Yep.
And in my dismissal, I was cut from the Falcons. And I will never forget it. There was a guy that was just a mean, tough. He was a tough old boy. And every day he would torture me with his antics about my faith and all this Christianity stuff is nothing. Oh my God, here's my God. And so he showed me a $100 bill and said, these dead presidents, that's my God. And lo and behold, I got released. And when I got released, you pack your bags, you leave. I'm walking out the facility, and he's watching me, and I don't know it. But I'm at my worst. I've just gotten released. I have no job. I have no employment. But I was doing something that I wasn't conscious I was doing. I was waving and smiling on my way out. It was 2 years later. I go into Detroit. I get a call from that same player. He called me in the middle of the night, woke me up. I picked up the phone. It was him. He said, I've been looking to reach out to you because something extraordinary has happened to me. I said, I got nervous and knew what was wrong. He said, I gave my life to Christ.
Wow.
Just one of the meanest players you'll ever meet. He said, I gave my life to Christ. And he said, you remember the day you were cut? I said, I remember it very well. He said, well, the day you were leaving the facility, I remember seeing you smile and you were waving at the rest of the team. He said, I froze in my seat, in my position. And I said, you know what? That's not the way a guy looks who's just lost his job. Yes. And he said, Derek, I wanted what you had. I didn't know what you had, but I wanted it. And so the Lord impressed upon me to call you to tell you that I've given my life to Christ. And it was that moment that did it for me.
Also, Paul, if I were to, I know the name of that player, and I will not mention his name, but he's one of the Hall of Fame a household name in NFL all over the country. that person is that Derek's referring to. And he would always like to kind of get a locker next to the superstar of the team and witness to that superstar. And he got some interesting responses from those superstars. Derek finally, get out of my face. I'm tired of your witnessing to me, and stuff. But Derek, I remember after the NFL, though, you immediately started ministering in the Atlanta area there with some of the historic black colleges until you got a call from the new head coach at Georgia Tech there, Chan Gailey, the old Cowboys coach. And I've told this story many times, Derek, but when Chan hired you to be kind of the team chaplain and character development person for that team, that the very first thing that he did, he said, Derek, we need to win some games, brother, but our main goal here is to win these coaches and these players to Christ. Can we just get down on our knees by this sofa right now and just pray together to get, our partnership started here in this ministry with this football team? And so tell us about that prayer and the plans you and Coach Gailey made at Georgia Tech to really impact the coaches and players on that team, Derek.
Wow, Steve, you bring back just one of the great memories of my career. Chan is to this day is just an unbelievable brother and friend. He's visited me here at South Carolina, and we've spent some time catching up, and just an amazing man who loves the Lord. So, I remember walking into his office, and after that conversation, and we got down on our knees, he said, before he said it, he said, Derek, I have no idea how many games we're going to win. He said, I have no idea. He said, but but I know we have an opportunity to win people to Jesus. And he said, I can tell you this, that my greatest win, or should I say his greatest win is going to be not the wins that take place in a stadium, but to use his platform and his position as head football coach to witness to these particular players. And he wanted to use that platform to win as many people to Christ as he could. And so he said his greatest victory will be that. His greatest defeat would be never having used the position of the head football coach to bring in someone that can minister to and witness to and mentor the players that on some levels he could not do himself, but he could arrange it where those opportunities would be granted. And boy, did he ever do that. And what a run, and what a bunch of guys who came to know Christ in that tenure. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and you were there for years and years before, moving to South Carolina here, but you've ministered to so many athletes over the years. They are a very unique bunch for sure, I know. But, these are college ministry staff and leaders that you're talking to, Derek, and I know some of them are focused on athletes, some of them are not. We're all kind of a little bit in awe or even intimidated by some college athletes as if they're unreachable, for college ministries or collegiate churches and all. But what would you tell our audience, these campus ministry workers, about how to go about relating to college athletes and how to be a witness and how to actually befriend and share the gospel with college athletes? What would you tell them?
Oh, wow. In all of my experiences, I was at Georgia Tech for 2 decades. And I tell you, day one for me wasn't, the routine. I knew a lot. I'd grown a lot. I learned from the very best in the business. I've been exposed to the gospel in an incredible way. I knew all of the information. I knew the truth that I embodied. But it wasn't going to start there for me. It was going to leverage building relationships, serving them on their turf. Before I could really bring them on my turf, which is sort of the end goal, I had to be willing to go on their turf. And understand, these dynamics, build relationships, getting to know their family dynamics, their social economic challenges, their backgrounds. And that took place by just being next to them on a daily basis, whether it was in a weight room or in a cafeteria, whether it was in a dorm room, or it was a walk from the athletic facility to their dorm, and then the hours invested, that it was going to take some sweat equity to build consistent relationships where trust is established, and they recognize that you're not there to get next to them because they're these great athletes, these great superstars. Some will go on to play pro football and the fame that comes with that, but you were sincerely there to serve them and to love them. And I think once that's sort of proven, I think you now have access, to the heart of the student. You have access to the things the student would never surrender to anyone in any situation. So it was a devotion from being there every day, being there consistently, being there, through the things that are just life, there's things going on at home and things are going on with the coaching staff, and just helping sort of create an environment where they knew they could trust someone and they can go have intimate conversations. And so what happened, I gave them something, and then they were willing to give me something. And so the something I was looking for, obviously, was an opportunity. Let me just tell you, I had someone, this particular player come to me and he said, hey, there's something unique about you. You're just different than anybody I've ever met. And can you just, what is it about you? I think I know, but could you articulate it? And so I said, oh, you're going to give me that? Was that deal? And so it happened one after another. And I could give you examples of countless players, student athletes. But, when they began to see you as someone that they can identify with, that, I know what I'm going to get when I talk to him or her. I know that they're going to love me. They're going to encourage me. They're going to be positive with me. They're going to listen. They're going to, and all of those things that come with the responsibility of being a campus minister or being a campus staff person. So I started there. So I went on their turf to learn their world so that I can get them to come unto mine.
Yes. And that's only possible when you're kind of focused on a specific, almost smaller group of people. You weren't just trying to reach all the athletes on campus. You were really kind of focused on the football team. Is that accurate? You were mainly focused on the football team there?
Absolutely. The football team, there's an evangelistic experience with the entire football team. My objective was to make certain that every single player heard the gospel at some point in time during my tenure. But then I also had to concentrate. I began to identify some of those pockets of students that I knew either I came to college with a faith-based background. They identified with Christ, but they have not been growing in their faith. They've not really attached themselves to anything. Then there were those who came to Christ as a result of being won to Christ, and then growing them, and then challenging them with a disciple-making relationship. And it was very strategic. That was a very strategic effort because everyone didn't quite meet that standard, but there were a select group that I knew would run with it.
Oh, that's really good. And I think that's really helpful for a lot of collegiate leaders. Is sometimes there's a staff member that has an athletic background, and the director or someone will tell them, hey, just go reach athletes. And they're kind of like, well, what do I do? And, it's better to think, let's reach teams. And then on the team, think about who are the individuals. And just like you described, it's better to reach specific someones than just like general populations of the campus. And so what team can, if someone's tasked with reaching athletes, maybe my advice would be discern what team are you able to infiltrate and build relationships and go deep relationally with? And then from there, you can really sow broadly with the gospel and see fruit. So anything you'd add to that kind of idea there, Derek?
Yeah, I had the football background, so obviously I was connected to the football program. So it was very simple for a staff member. It might look a little different in the sense, but when you look at what sport did you maybe play, or you have a passion for, if you're reaching an athletic team, then because you have something to identify with and connect with. Now, I'll always say that'll get you in the door, but that's about all it'll get you. But beyond that, the authenticity of who you are will come forth. And so what wins the day is going to be who you are, not necessarily what you did. and what you achieved is going to be who you are. And so, because all of our staff out there don't necessarily have an athletic background or any of those things, but you might have a passion for an organization. It might be a sorority, it might be a fraternity, it might be, it might be a staff, a campus staff that's a part of the administration, and then it certainly can be an athletic team. But I think certainly being very attentive to and hypersensitive to the leading of the Holy Spirit in that regard, to what group are you going to target? That you're gonna sort of aim at something, or you'll risk missing everything.
Right.
So there has to be something you're going to aim at. So I that was very important for me going forward. So every time I got to campus, I had a very concentrated group. I knew where I was going to go. I knew the people I was going to be working with. And so that gave me an opportunity to really grow that sector of the campus.
That's really wise. And that's one of the ministry philosophies that Chad and I continue to try to train collegiate leaders in, is this, some call it the personal ministry target strategy or the affinity group strategy, or it's basically just applying missiological principles, missionary principles to the campus. And I love that you're doing that and modeled that for our listeners. Let's talk about once a student comes to Christ, a student athlete, for example. What are some kind of ways that you follow up with them? And then what are some kind of challenges in discipling a student athlete?
Well, I think once a student athlete comes to Christ, and it certainly is a incredible moment, one of which they really don't totally understand at the level in which we would understand it, but all of the privileges and the access and what you've done not only in this life, but what you've done in the one to come. The impact is extraordinary, Now, but yet that is hard to grasp that. So that takes some time, and so it becomes really my responsibility. I don't necessarily make that their responsibility to now grow from what just happened. What's happened is that I've had the great honor and privilege of being a part of a salvation experience at a moment. Yep. But I think God also leaves me with an awesome responsibility to now bring that individual or those individuals under my wing, to provide direction and correction, and instruction and growth and all of the things that's going to create a desire, a greater passion beyond the cross, beyond the moment of saying yes to Christ. But now that when I walk out from underneath it, I now am going to go with a passion, because what's going to come next are going to be all the things that tell you that you didn't do it, that these things didn't happen, that there is no hope, all of those things. So I'm going to be very calculated in my now investing in those people, so that on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, I'm going to begin to build some fundamentals. So it's going to be very important that fundamentals get established. And I don't have time to talk about all those, but the fundamentals of the faith, those things that are essential to a new believer's process from day one, because they don't know what's next. They don't really know how to take off, like you're just having a newborn baby. The baby is still, dependent upon the parent to provide the nurturing, the nutrition, the space, the time, the care, all the things that are going to be appropriate so that young baby can grow. And so if the young believer is going to grow, then it's going to come through my nurturing of that young believer. So I have a commitment to them. I have a commitment to see them take those fundamentals and begin to run with them. And I think the greatest thing I see is when they get confidence and can, oh my gosh, I got that. Oh, that's amazing, and you start talking about, what are some passages? You start talking about, learning the Bible and understanding, the core principles, the basic principles of the Bible, but helping them understand what they've just established. I think so. The follow-up is going to be built around nurturing, almost as if a parent has just had a new baby, and all the responsibilities that come with parenting comes with being a Christ builder.
That's good. And I would even say, athletes, they understand what it means to be coached. And so there is kind of maybe there could be a more of a teachability to that disciple maker role in their life, where not that you're taking the same kind of relationship as a coach, but they understand what if you worked on this aspect of your spiritual life, you kind of adapt those things.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there's definitely challenges and opportunities in discipling student athletes. So any other advice you'd give our audience that are seeking to disciple athletes?
I don't know exactly where all of them would be, but I had the good fortunes of identifying 4 guys that along the way, and they were all freshmen when I met them. They're all in campus ministry now doing what it's powerful. And they've been at it over a decade plus now, and at premier Power 5 schools. And, and the investment in those young men has been amazing. I identified those guys. I saw the hungry guys, I saw those guys that I gave them some tasks, and I wanted to test them to see how responsible would they be, would they follow up, would they accomplish the assignments, would they embrace the opportunity to be different, would they would they want to just blend and just continue to, sort of play it at both ends with their teammates. And these guys were football players. And if you know anything about a locker room, it is one of the most challenging places to be a Christian. Right. There can possibly be. And I know there are so many, but when you're among your peers and their level of expectations of who you are can sometimes be different. And yet you've come to know Christ, and now you've been identified and marked. And I've told them, listen, this is where we're going to go, and here's how we're going to do it, and this is how we're going to grow it. And as a result of it, I wanted to see what they leave me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I said, Lord, I'm gonna make this. I can't make this simple and easy. There's gonna be some challenges here. So what time are we gonna meet? Where are we gonna be there? Are you gonna follow up to it? Here are a couple of assignments. Are they gonna be done when you get back? And it sounds like a teacher or a parent giving out all these rules, but they so embraced it. And I think it was because they had a passion for their faith. And they wanted more. They were hungry. And the more they wanted, the more we kept providing. And so I would challenge, any staff member to, at some point, you have got to identify. Can I say this? Steve taught me something a long time ago. Steve, I don't know if you remember this, but I called you once about an opportunity that I had to go and do something else in life. And you asked me about those 4 guys, and I was going to go off and leave them there. And you said something to me that I have never forgotten. Derek, you've had this great ministry, and you've kind of done all these things and so on and so forth. And you said this. You said, but D. Moore, Derek, how many have you landed? How many have you really impacted that will go the distance?
Wow.
How many have you really discipled and grown up? And I had began the stages with those guys. And it was that message when I reached out to Steve for counsel that impacted my decision so greatly. I had totally missed it. And he fulfilled it. To this day, all 4 of those guys from Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, 2 were in medical school and were headed to get their medical degrees. And 2 were in business and finance. Brilliant minds, to this day could still do it. Mm-hmm. But they walked away from there.
Wow.
God, to pursue the gospel.
Wow.
And have gone into ministry and has remained there to this day, championing the gospel. It is the most extraordinary thing I've in that conversation, Steve. How many have you really landed? Well, I'm here to say that I know we've landed 4, and I can tell you this: that 4 has landed 44,000.
Wow. Well, that's a little bit how we're describing the Great Commission these days, Derek, is evangelism, disciple making, and missions mobilization. And a big part of what we mean by that third one, missions mobilization, is viewing your campus or viewing your team as a sending base, as a launching pad. And how many of those are going to move out into the world and continue to be a witness for Christ, continue to disciple others, continue to multiply like you have into their life. Mm-hmm. And so God has used you not just to evangelize, not just to disciple, but to launch out world changers. And I think athletes, I think our listeners that work with athletes, understand that when Jesus said the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few, where do we get these laborers? Well, athletes, they make some of the greatest laborers there ever was. I mean, they understand hard work. They understand the concept of training, of submitting to authority, their coaches, the teamwork concept, the fitting into roles, the assignments, the gifting, the perseverance. I mean, think of all the different lessons that you learn and you have to learn to be part of an athletic team that then directly apply, to campus ministry. And I know Paul wants to ask you in a moment about how you've been able to stay in the saddle all these years, 30 years or some number like that in college ministry, Derek. But, one thing I've observed about Derek, Paul, that really is one of the most unusual things I've ever seen is he immediately is able to reach out to all kinds of students, not just athletes, but certainly athletes. It doesn't matter the ethnic background. It doesn't matter the skin color. I mean, I remember within a matter of weeks, my house there in Conway was filled with college athletes coming over for dinners and stuff that Derek would invite. White guys, black guys, I don't know what color skin they were, every imaginable. and it did not matter. It did not matter. He didn't look at anything through skin color. He just wanted to love these guys and pull them together and show them and share with them the love of Jesus. And I don't know, Derek, you've taught me so much about lifting up Jesus in the midst of people in a winsome way that doesn't, we're in such a skin color sensitive society right now. That's the filter everybody looks through. Mm-hmm. You ditched that filter long ago. And I just want to commend you that you've risen above that for the sake of our Lord and of the gospel. And you've had impact on really, I think, thousands of lives.
Steve, I thank you for those kind words. And it wasn't without unbelievable people that along the way in that journey that it was destined for me to meet, and from students at Central Arkansas to, I can name so many of them, to students at Northeastern that helped further shape my own personal faith, and certainly gave me the opportunity to be trusted with that. And as a result, I could have never imagined my life taking off in those directions. And I will say, it has not been without a lot of challenges. It has not been without, the resistance of that and those that will oppose the gospel. It has not been without that, but there is a wonderful and excellent way that Christ modeled winning people. And I have attempted that approach all of my life because, Christ did not come to take sides. He came to take over.
That's good.
Time to preach.
Time to preach.
Okay, Paul. Go for it, Paul.
That's amazing, Derek. Yeah, and I love that servant-hearted attitude that you approach your teammates or anyone you're trying to share the gospel with. You lead with that, the humility and serving, then God's going to open all sorts of doors, more than we're even able to handle. And so you're a great example of that. And so what is it that's kept you focused on reaching college students and discipling and all these things over the years? What's kind of kept you in the saddle, so to speak, on this focus of yours?
Well, not to be comical, but I finally discovered I don't do very many things well. But I've found that I've had a real knack for my faith and my passion for that. And I'm no expert, but I am in my comfort zone. I am where I love being, among people, investing in people and winning people and encouraging people and motivating people and inspiring people. I'm a people watcher, you know. So I naturally, I think Steve alluded to some of it, I naturally gravitate in that direction. So I think what's kept me here, obviously, are my own convictions about what I believe. It is what I believe. And over the years, life will come at you. Life will come at us to challenge it. And through all of these years, I am so grateful that from day one in an old Georgia Southern room, there on that campus, my convictions have remained. But I believe that there is an empty tomb. And I truly believe, you know, that Jesus was raised on the third day. I truly do believe, you know, that he ascended. And I truly do believe, you know, that he sits at the Father's side. I do truly believe that he's going to return. I truly believe it. And I have believed it from day one with no physical evidence beyond that which God gives us here on earth. But I tell you, I've tried to stay in that lane. And so I don't run the gamut of thinking that I am going to be great at much else. I think if I am anything, this is it.
Yeah, love it.
I know Paul's going to ask you about your role in the EDM conference and ask you to pray for us. We're running out of time. I know you've got another commitment, Derek, but Paul, Derek is married very well also. Stephanie, his wife, not only an amazing woman, beautiful woman, but she's written 75 books, 5 more coming out this year. Hello. About half of them Christian-focused books, and a lot of them are aimed at the African-American teenager. One of her early series that she wrote was about a white high school gymnast, and she was somehow using our family for her plot lines. It was called the Laurel Shadrach series.
Oh, that's good.
I said, wow, I feel famous all of a sudden. But Derek also has 3 very accomplished children, amazing kids. And so anyway, before you ask him about EDM and ask him to pray and close our time, he has led his family well. He's modeled a marriage. He's modeled a family. He really is a mature, balanced man that we can all look to as a role model. And I just love and admire him so much, and honored to have him with us today. But ask him about that conference, because he's going to be our leadoff speaker for the EDM 23 conference.
Yeah. I love it. I love that you're going to be kicking this thing off. And that's exactly what we need, is that energy and that passion. So what are some of the things that you're going to be sharing on during that first session? I know you probably haven't written the whole talk yet, but we got some time. But what are some things that are on your heart that you feel like God might be leading you to share with the group?
I think as I prepare for that event, it would lead really with what I just sort of closed a moment ago. Over time, there is and football players and athletes would relate to this well, that over the course of a game, there's an old saying, fatigue makes us all weary. Attrition, the battle of attrition
makes us cowards.
It makes us cowards. That's it. It makes us cowards. And what makes us cowards are, over the course of time, all of these things that life becomes, the world becomes, it changes, it and some people use the term, and it's evolving, and it becomes circumstantially different than what it was years and years ago. And as a result of that, what happens is that we find ourselves in a very unique set of circumstances where we begin to get weary, we begin to get fatigued, we begin to think there's something other than this. There is maybe we didn't get this right. Maybe the world is right. Maybe the world got the best solutions and the right answers, and maybe I should compromise this and surrender this and surrender that, and maybe the impact isn't that grand that we speak of. And so the opening piece for me is going to be built around, I'm not tired yet.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
I'm 55 years old, and I was in my early 20s when I met Steve. But Steve, I just might have more energy now and conviction now than I had when I met you way back all of those years ago. And that is only because of the cross. That is only because of the cross. So fatigue, weariness, but Jesus comes along and reminds us, to lean upon him. In all of these moments that will continue to come our way. But I think the test of our faith is those that endure, those that sustain what they have started. And Jesus will complete it. He will finish it in us and through us. So I think that would be the opening thesis that I like to go in that direction. Then there are multiple pieces and layers that come with that.
Oh, powerful, man. I'm already encouraged. So there you go. If those that listen to the podcast, they'll be blessed and hopefully motivated to join us at EDM 23. So Derek, would you close us in prayer, and then Shad will just close out the podcast for us?
You bet, brother. Great God, we do thank you for this this podcast, this moment, this team, this mission and ministry, and the efforts, that the work and preparation that's going into this conference. All of us, oh God, are so grateful for the cross. We're even more grateful for your resurrection. And dear God, we look to you for guidance and instruction and all of these things, that we do not attempt them on our own. But God, that we would lean on you for these directions. And so again, I'm so thankful to be a part of this experience. And I know that there's so many people that could do this, and you have so many wonderful, wonderful believers all over the world. But I'm so humbled that I've been asked to participate in this conference and share just a small role in it. I pray you would help my preparation. And then, God, I pray that you would go ahead of us and arrange this conference in such a way that it could have only been pulled off by you.
Yes,
May you do it. Oh, God, may you do it. And then, God, lastly, bless all of the staff members all over the country, all over the world that's doing your great work. Encourage their hearts today. Inspire them, oh God, with your great devotion and your great love for them. And remind them, oh God, that, Lord, there is still one great event remaining that the world will see. The whole world will see it, and it will be your great return. And dear God, may we long for that. In the meantime, may we labor. May we work on behalf of you, that, Lord God, we might win people, and in winning them, we might evangelize them, and we might disciple them, and then we might mobilize them into a world that so desperately needs you. So we thank you. We praise you for this unbelievable opportunity. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Wow. Woo. I knew I wore the Derek Moore Carolina Panther jersey for a reason here. I'm hoping for a double portion of his spirit, Paul, to come upon me. Not football wise. Derek holds several records. I never told him that I hold a couple of records too. When I was in high school, we were in the top division, the whole state of Texas, and I led the whole city in number of interceptions and times being sacked. So those were I was a quarterback, and so I cherish those records even today, Derek. So I won't. Derek holds really true records. So, but our listeners and our watchers on YouTube can tell that his passion goes way beyond sports. It's really tied up in the kingdom and the King, and bringing in others to be worshipers of the King and to impact this world for Christ. So anyway, that was so encouraging, Derek. Thank you so much. We're going to get this out to our audience the next few weeks, and we'll let you know when that is. And until the next episode, please, like Paul has mentioned in the past, go to campusministry.org. There's hundreds of free resources there for your collegiate ministry from a variety of top leaders, free ebooks and reproducible discipleship material, tons of practical how-tos, and articles and resources, all things collegiate ministry. We want it to be the go-to resource, really, for all your collegiate ministry needs. So let us know what topics or content you would find helpful. As always, Paul and I would love to know how we can be of help to you and your ministry. So from Paul, from Derek, myself, our CMT team, until next time, God bless.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. God bless.